Since the beginning of the game, we have been told that the Traveler and their twin are tourists of the Starry Seas, but we know now it's not that simple. At the end of the 3.2 Archon quest, we learn about Descenders, or people who do not belong to this world. Nahida tells us that according to Fatui intel, one of the twins is a Descender, one is not. But how do twins have different origins? With the current dearth of information, the possibilities seem almost endless, but it's something we can try to pick apart. Let's first break this down with a timeline of some important points. We start with the twins' arrival. From "We will be reunited," we learned that the Abyss twin had been awake much longer than the Traveler, and Traveler's first memory here was the Sea of Flames, the destruction of Khaenri'ah, the cataclysm. We now also know from Nahida that the Abyss twin suddenly appeared in the Irminsul record sometime before the cataclysm. The time and absolute chronology between each of these points is unknown. During the cataclysm, the Abyss sibling tries to leave with the Traveler, but we may assume was immediately stopped by the Sustainer of Heavenly Principles. Nahida finally gives clarification that the Abyss sibling traveled Teyvat after the cataclysm, but Irminsul records get fuzzy before the journey's conclusion. We can add in some more data points from some other details. One, from the first Dainsleif quest, is that Dain first saw Stormtear's lair when it was Old Mondstadt, before Dvalin was poisoned by Durin, during the cataclysm. This was a point that originally led people to think that the Abyss sibling traveled Teyvat before the cataclysm. The second big point is that the Abyss sibling, as Nora Varuna, traveled Sumeru during or after the cataclysm to help the Aranara defeat the Dark Rain and Mud and Iron Chunks. Notably here, none of the Aranara mentioned Dain at all. Yet Dain tells us that he did travel with the sibling at some point, so it may be possible that there were two different journeys with different goals. There's one major thing about this timeline I really want to highlight. When the twins were stopped by the Sustainer, she called the twins Outlanders, plural, Outlanders. Placing this into the timeline, this seems incongruous with other information given, smack dab between when the Abyss siblings started being recorded by Irminsul, but before the journey where the record gets fuzzy. This means that strange things are afoot here. In my last video, I said there could be two main reasons. One is that they aren't twins, and the other is that they are twins, but the Abyss siblings somehow integrated with Irminsul's record. How many times does the theme of artificial life have to hit us over the head in this game? I mean, albedo and sussy albedo and whopperflower albedo, generally the alchemy of gold in Khaenri'ah, and A and Scaramouche, the segments of Dottore, etc., etc. Considering the Abyss sibling appeared in Khaenri'ah, a haven for Chemia, I would not think it's absurd to theorize that perhaps the sibling, or someone else, created a clone or puppet or copy of the actual sibling, and that's the one being recorded by Irminsul. I honestly don't have much thought on this, as I cannot come up with a clear explanation for the motive. Could it have just been an accident or an experiment? Or did it serve a greater purpose? Regardless, I think it's just one thematically consistent option to explain the Descender discrepancy. In my previous video, I gave another very superficial interpretation that perhaps the sibling, touched the tree or something. And perhaps it's that simple. We don't know exactly how it works. But I wanted to put on my tinfoil hat a bit, so tinfoil hat warning. In A's second story quest, Makoto gives A the seed of the sacred sakura tree to plant in the distant past. 500 years ago, A finally went to Khaenri'ah after the battle had subsided, but when she returned to Inazuma, she just found the sacred sakura tree had appeared just there. But to the people in Inazuma, the tree had always been there. At the end of the quest, A speculates that Istaroth, a shade of the Primordial One and the ruler of time, moments, and the unchanging world, aided Makoto in this endeavor. Imagine then that Istaroth, for some reason, had done something similar to the Abyss sibling. At some point, could the Abyss sibling have ended up in a chaotic space with distorted time, and Istaroth replanted the seed in Khaenri'ah? And with Istaroth's intervention, that's why the sibling just appears in Irminsul, similar to how the sacred sakura tree appeared one day in A's perspective. It is also interesting that in Makoto's monologue about the sacred sakura, she describes the seed as being freed from the clutches of the heavenly principles. Revisiting this, I'm not sure what that means exactly, but could it be that both siblings tried to escape the moment they arrived, and the Abyss sibling never escaped the capture of the Sustainer, only saved when Istaroth replanted the sibling in the pre-cataclysm Khaenri'ah? This theory needs a lot of fleshing out, and still begs the question as to why Traveler woke up when they did. But I just wanted to throw that out there for now. In one part of the dialogue with Nahida, Traveler questions whether something is wrong with their memory, or if the world did something to the Abyss sibling. I want to play with an idea here. I'm inclined to think not just one will be true. Either neither are true, or both are true. If it's the latter, how would we reconcile then that both Traveler's memory is messed up, and the world did something to the sibling? This theory I'll explain pivots away from the previous ones in that they assume both are, and always have been, Outlanders. This one requires that neither are actually Outlanders. As a warning, this is high-octane tinfoil hat theorizing, so bear with me. Before the 3.2 Archon quest, I and many others toyed with the idea that the Travelers actually originate from this world, due to their outfits and imagery that seem similar to stuff we see on Teyvat, and their mastery of elements. I mean, in the original Planet of the Apes, Charlton Heston is an astronaut whose spaceship travels far, far away into the future to a planet where apes rule and humans drool. The end plot twist is that he discovers the Statue of Liberty, confirming he was on a post-apocalyptic Earth all along. So maybe the siblings could have had a similar reveal. The 3.2 Archon quest threw a Titanic-sized spanner in the works, of course. But on the other hand, this spanner makes no sense, so that's permission for me to think creatively. Given the new information we have, what if both twins originally came from this world, experienced a Ruka Devata type memory wipe on a much grander scale, including their own memories, and the world would go on to do something to the Abyss sibling? According to the Sword of Dissension, the PlayStation exclusive weapon, the siblings left their homeworld because their home was destroyed. If their homeworld was the unified civilization, this destruction would have been the coming of the Second Throne. This tore the world and heavens asunder, sank Enkanomiya, and led to the fall of the unified civilization. This, of course, accepts that the author of Before Sun and Moon was incorrect in their assumption that the Primordial One won the war. And given how Enkanomiya was restricted from the surface, and the heavens still don't want anyone to remember the war or times before, I'm inclined to think the Second Throne won. So they left to escape this destruction. But why the hard Irminsul wipe? And who would do it? This is heavy speculation, but perhaps for their protection, or to avoid detection from the Second Throne? Or perhaps to set the stage for them to one day return and organically learn the truth of the world. As Dane has said, as the sibling has said, as Zhongli has said, and others as well, there's meaning to the journey. This theory alone doesn't explain how the Abyss sibling was actually recorded by Irminsul or why, but it could give some explanation as to how the Abyss sibling can be recorded by Irminsul in the first place as an Outlander, and also give context as to why they're so attached to Khaenri'ah. Khaenri'ah, the godless nation, underground, just like other descendant civilizations of the unified world, sunk by the Second Throne. So, in many ways, our own journey may lead us back to where it first really started. The fun thing, or to some, the really frustrating and complicated thing about this tinfoil theory speculation, is that either of the two previous theories, about clones and puppets, or about Istaroth intervening, could add into this Earth all along TV trope. as a way to explain why the Abyss sibling began getting re-recorded by Irminsul in the first place. None of these so far address why the Irminsul record gets fuzzy towards the end of the Abyss siblings' journey. The traveler ponders if it's the Abyss, which perhaps could be the answer. The Abyss can infect Irminsul with forbidden knowledge and corrupt minds. But one thing that bothers me about this timeline is that it isn't clear about when Dainsleif traveled with the sibling. Dain says that he first saw Old Mondstadt before the cataclysm, but there's no indication that the Abyss sibling had traveled before then. But during Aranyaka, they consistently mention Nara Varuna during the onslaught of dark beasts, but never Dain. We know that Dain seems to have knowledge that most people don't, and he is also the Bowkeeper, meaning that he likely has a connection with Irminsul. What if Dain acted to obscure the Abyss siblings' fate at the end of the journey? The fuzziness does coincidentally coincide with Dain's and the siblings' parting, and as Dain says, there's no such thing as a coincidence. Taking it further, I do wonder if Dain had the ability to delete himself from Aranara memories. As to why he would obscure the siblings' fate or erase himself from other minds is still a mystery. Where is the Sumeru Dain quest? Because I need it right now. As usual, these are just a variety of theories and speculations, and unfortunately I don't have a good solid conclusion with any of them. Yet. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please make sure to like and subscribe and comment with your own theories, and slap that like button around a bit as well. When I'm not making videos, you can find me over on Twitch co-hosting a stream with OutletDesu at twitch.tv/OutletDesu. So come by and hear some lore and good times and shenanigans. Alright, see you next time. Bye.